Hello everyone, this is THG, aka Scheme Gamer, and welcome to a brand new episode of Flip Throughs. This is episode 37, and be sure to check out all episodes of Flip Throughs on my playlist on my YouTube channel. We're in 30 episodes in and all that other stuff, and there's going to be more episodes to come. So be sure to check out all new episodes of Flip Throughs along with my other series called Games I've Been Playing Series Season 6 every other Friday on my YouTube channel. So anyway, without further ado, let's get it started. Alright, for this flip through right here and all that stuff, and I never do a flip through a Game Informer for a while and all that stuff. So it's been a really long time, but I flipped through a Game Informer magazine from the early 2000s. But today and all that stuff, we're gonna be doing flip throughs of Game Informer issue 123 of July of 2003 with Champion Nora Realms of EverQuest on the cover. Talk about E3 of 2003. Talk about the debut of the PSP, and then talk about the hype for Halo 2 and Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Six, I believe, and all that stuff. And also the preview of Half-Life 2 on the Xbox as well. So here's the front of it and all that other stuff. So anyway, without further ado, let's flip through this magazine. Here's the ads for the best MMORPG ever made. For the original Xbox and the PC, that is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Classic Star Wars MMO game on the OG Xbox and the PC. I have it for the original Xbox and all that stuff. Bring back a lot of memories. So yeah, there is that. This is one of the hype games of 2003. The best 2003 Star Wars game and all that. So yeah, there is that. And here's the table on context, and here's the ad for the Donkey Kong Country on the Game Boy Advance and all that stuff, which is superior port and all that other stuff for the Super Nintendo version and all that other stuff. So here it is. Bring back a lot of memories. And here's the table on context of the issue and all that stuff. Here, more table on context. Here's an ad for the Advance War 2 Black Hole Rising on the Game Boy Advance, which is showing the gameplay of the Game Boy Advance SP. And here's the editor for me. Here's the ad for Warrior World on the GameCube, which I saw the commercial as a kid, but never played the game though. But you know how GameCube games prices are? Their GameCube games are now so expensive. So here's the ad for Warrior World on the GameCube. Bring back so many memories. Here's a Game Informer Spy, and here's an ad for Freestyle Metal X on the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. And here's a Dear Game Informer section, and here's the ad for the Pirates of the Caribbean gameplay for the Xbox and the PC and all that. It's based off the 2003 movie and all that stuff. So here it is. Here's the development envelope art and all that. Here's the ad for Freaky Flyers on the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. So here it is. Freaky Flyers. Even if you guys play this game and all that stuff, leave a comment below. Here's the Game Informer news and all that stuff. Sony going handheld with the PSP. We talk about the UMD and all that stuff. And Xbox being Sports Online and all that with Xbox Live with Xbox Sports and so much stuff for etc and all that stuff. And and the console getting price drop and all that other stuff at the time. It still is to this day and all that other stuff. Xbox would go for $179, PS2 $179, and GameCube $149 at the time and all that. And also there's for the Japan only and all that stuff. There's a DVD player on the PS2 and all that, which is really cool. Here's more stuff, and here's the ad for Great Escape on the PS2 original Xbox. Here's more Game Informer news, and here's the ad for Resident Evil Dead Aim and all that stuff. And is a light gun game on the PS2, mixed with gun two mechanics and all that stuff. So this game is way superior than Resident Evil Survivor in my opinion. Even though I never play them, but Resident Evil Dead Aim and all that stuff bring back a lot of memories. Showing the ads and reviews on X-Play back in the day. Here's more Game Informer news, and here's the sweepstakes for Freestyle Metal X. And PS2 added the iToy and all the other stuff. Who remember iToy from the PS2 era and all that stuff? Before we have Kinect and VR and all the other stuff. Leave a comment below. Bring back memories though. And here's the ad and all this stuff to all cover the issues and all this stuff. Then Champion Norath Rebel of EverQuest on the PS2. So here it is, which I never really played this game and all that stuff, but I see some commercials and all that as a kid and all that stuff. It's like an MMO RPG and all that stuff. So here it is right there. If you haven't played this game and all that stuff, leave a comment below. And that's it. Is there more stuff for Champion Norath? No, that's it. That's the preview of Champion Norath, Rebel and EverQuest for the PS2. And here's the ad for Return to Castle Wolfenstein on the PS2 and the OG Xbox. And here's the ad for E3 and all of this stuff. E3 was so fantastic and all this stuff during the early 2000s. And this is that all talk about all the ads from 2003 and all the games that are coming out in 2003 and in the next year and all that stuff. Bring back so many memories. It's sad that E3 gone and all that stuff, but E3 and all that stuff bring back so much memories and all that stuff. Releasing new games and announcements and for new systems and etc. etc. So it was a fantastic time. So here's the ad for E3 of 2003 in LA. Bring back long line memories, previews of Sonic Heroes, the PS2, Xbox, etc. etc. And all the other game companies as well. Here's the Capcom press conference and Terminator 3 Rising Machines on the Atari section and the Microsoft press conference and all that. Showing the amazing games that were released on that year. 2003 was the peak year of gaming and all that out of the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube era. Here's the Sony press conference and the Nintendo conference. Previews on Mario Kart Double Dash, Field for Joe, Soul Calibur 2, of course, Resident Evil 4, and the PS2 games are SSS 3, Jak 2, Tony Hawk Underground, etc., etc. Need for Speed Underground, etc., etc. You guys can show it right there. Here's the Konami press conference, Nokia compact, which released like the N-Gage and all that stuff. Basically like a handheld device mixed with the phone and all that other stuff. And so yeah, so there and that is the top of Game Boy Advance games as well, from Pokemon, Pinball Ruby Sapphire, Fire Emblem, Mario Luigi Superstar Saga, etc., etc. Amazing games of that year and all that stuff. So yeah, those are those. Here's more stuff right here. Vanessa Carlton playing in that event as well. See, like a walk 1,000 miles. Yeah, like that. So here she is right there, Vanessa Carlton. And here's the ad for Alter Ego on PS2 and Xbox. Here's more stuff from E3 of 2003. American Idol when Paula Abdul and Randy Jackson was hosting back then. Here's Snoop Dogg right there. And here's the top 10 games of E3 of 2003. From Half-Life 2, Halo 2, Doom 3, Gran Turismo 4, Tony Hawk Underground, Metal Gear Solid 3, SS3, and Mario Kart Double Dash. Those best games out there out of 2003. Some of them released that year, some of them releasing in the next year and all that stuff. So here it is. And here's the ad for the Italian Job based off the horrible 2003 movie on the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. And here's a preview of Half-Life 2 on the PC and the OG Xbox. Half-Life is a classic first-person shooter and all that stuff. It's real classic. So here it is. And here's the ad for Gran Turismo 4 on the PS2. All-time classic as well, next to Gran Turismo 3. Here's the ad for the best pressure game of all time. They said we're not going to get a remake of it and all that stuff. You know how Ubisoft and all that other stuff with layoffs and all that stuff. Best Prince of Persia ever made. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. I beat this game. I have it on the OG Xbox and all that stuff. It's really great, but hard at times. But so here it is. Best Prince of Persia game ever made. So here it is. Here, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. They're gonna release in the next year and all that stuff. And they release a remastered and all that stuff on the next gen console last year and all that. So here it is. Here, Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes that on the GameCube, remake of Metal Gear Solid 1 in the GameCube form and all that other stuff, and Lords of EverQuest. Here, Need for Speed Underground, which bring back a lot of memories and all that other stuff. Even though I never owned the game and all that other stuff, I remember playing the arcades like Chuck E. Cheese back in the day and all that other stuff. And the soundtrack for Underground 1 was amazing. And Stalker Infinity Lost on the PC. Especially the Lil Jon, like, get low, get low, get low. Yeah, bring back a lot of memories and all that. Basically like the Too Fast, Too Furious era and all that stuff. Bring back a lot of memories and all that. So those are those. Here's Halo 2, the one, the hype game that started it all. And Geist on the GameCube. Halo 2 Legendary and all that, my favorite out of the series and all that other stuff. Bring back a lot of memories too as well. So yeah, those are those. Here's SOCOM 2 Union Navy SEALs. I saw a commercial for that as a kid. And Castlevania Limited Innocent with my friend, Gamerman Lounge and all that other stuff. Basically like the 3D Castlevania and all that other stuff mixed with some elements to it and all that stuff. So yeah, those are those. Those are those two games right there. Bring back a lot of memories. Here's Full Spectrum Warrior and Breakdown on the OG Xbox. Yeah, 2003 was the great year of gaming and all that stuff. Here's The Sims 2 on the PSP and 007 Everyday or Nothing. Just like Nightfire and all that stuff. This is the best one out of the whole series and all that stuff. Even though I played for a little bit, it's like a third-person shooter and all that stuff mixed with the own story out there. You could play as Maya, the singer Maya in it and all that stuff. Real good times. Here's Conquer Live and Uncut, later to rename Conquer Live Reloaded on the OG Xbox. Basically like Conquer Bad Fur Day, like an uncut, like an edited version of it. And Lineage 2, the Chaos Chronicle on the PC. Here, Ninja Gaiden on the OG Xbox. And R Racing Evolution on the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. And there's a sweepstakes and all. You could win the gaming rig and all that stuff. Back then, we used to have like big TVs and all that stuff. Before we have like HD TVs and all the other stuff. So here it is. Here's the ultimate sweepstakes right there. You win like one of the systems: PS2, GameCube, Xbox, and the PC. So yeah, good times. And here, Sim busting out on the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, Star Fox 2, which is Star Fox Assault later on, and Dragon Guard on the PS2. Here's Middle Earth Online, here Beyond Good and Evil, really underrated game. Hopefully there's a sequel coming out on the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. Great game and all that stuff. I have it on PS2, bring back a lot of memories. Grabbed by the Ghoulies on the original Xbox, and Sea Battalion, the Line of Contact on the OG Xbox. So yeah, those are amazing games right there. Here's Rome Total War on PC, Mario Golf Tour Tour on the GameCube, Kill Switch on the PS2 and Xbox, and the remake of the first Metro game that the Game Boy Advance, Metro Zero Mission. And here's the folder files and all the other stuff showing all the other games and all that stuff. Conflict, Desert Storm 2, Pokemon Coliseum, Painkiller, Mario Party 5, Firefire FD18, Pokemon Channel, and Legend of Zelda, the Tetris Tracker. Like a mini games for the Game Boy fans onto the GameCube and all that. Here's more games right here and all that stuff. And especially the legendary, the best Time Crisis game of all time, that Time Crisis 3. And the legendary Sonic Heroes right there, and Super Mario Fans 4, Super Mario Brothers Fans 3. And here's all the reviews and all that other stuff. And here's the game of the month of Fans War 2, Black Hole Rising, which they remastered it on the Switch and all that stuff. Here, NCAA Football 2004, Arcalast, Twilight of the Spirits. Here's Ape Escape 2 and Return to Castle Wolfenstein Operation Resurrection. And here's The Hulk, based on the horrible 2003 movie. RTX Roxy, here's the PS2 Quickies and Naval Ops Wargunner. Here's Warrior World on the GameCube, and same thing with Hulk, the 2003 movie, based off the horrible 2003 movie. Here's Speed Kings, here's Ultimate Muscle, based off the anime and all that stuff, which I saw at Foxbox back in the day. It's a great wrestling game as well. Hitman 2, Silent Silence on the GameCube, and NCAA Football 2004 on the GameCube side. Here, Brute 4 on the OG Xbox, and Midnight Club 2 on the original Xbox as well. And here's to subscribe to Game Informer and all that other stuff. Bring back a lot of memories. Every time I have a Game Informer in the mail, all that, or just read through them. And here, Mace Griffin the Bounty Hunter, Midnight Talents 3, and Wakeboarding Unleashed featuring Sean Murray. Here, Blade Roar Extreme on the original Xbox, the Hulk 2003 game, and Speed Kings, NCAA Football, and Enter the Matrix. And here for the PC side, here PlanetSide and Rise of the Nations. And here's Restaurant Empire and Sims the Superstar. And here's the game of the month and all that, of course, that is Fans War 2, Black Hole Rising on the Game Boy Advance. And here's a Game Boy, more Game Boy reviews, Ninja 5.0, The Incredible Hulk, Sonic Spinball Party, and Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku 2, which is way superior than the first one and all that. I remember playing that one as a kid. And here's the old school GameStop and all that stuff. When back then we had to like pre-order the PS2s and all that stuff, pre-order GameCubes and all that stuff. Bring back a lot of memories. GameStop pricing was really huge back in the day during the 6th gen era and all that stuff. I owned the GameCube first and all that stuff, then owned the PS2 later on, and then the OG Xbox 2 as well. So yeah, those are those. And here's your Game Informer charts and all that stuff, and more for the original Xbox and all that stuff, and more for the PC. Use the archives and all that stuff. Nothing special. Here's the secret access and all that stuff. Every time there's a reach the end of the issue, they give you like cheat codes and all that stuff. So here it is right there. Midnight Club 2, Enter the Matrix, Big Mother Truckers, NBA Street Falling 2, of course, WWE Crush Hour, Primal, and Godzilla Destroys All Monsters Melee on the OG Xbox. And GameCube too. And here's more stuff right here and all that other stuff from the Secret Access from NBA Street Falling 2, of course, Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Battle 22, WarioWare Macro mini games on the Game Boy Advance, Splinter Cell, Golden Sun Lost Age, Yu-Gi-Oh! Worldwide Edition, Stairways to Destiny Duel, and all that stuff. The OG Yu-Gi-Oh! Is real classic right there. And that's it for we're at the end of the issue right here. Here's the ad for a Brute Fort on the OG Xbox. And to end it off right here for the issue right here and all that for the episode flip throughs, and here's the back for the ad for Chaos Legion on the PS2. Great game right here. Kind of like Devil May Cry, but it's old style. So yeah, there is that. So here, that is the flip throughs of Game Informer issue 123 of July of 2003. So yeah, there is that. Alright, that's it for this episode right here of flip throughs and all that stuff. So tell me down below what's your fond memories of this issue right here of Game Informer. And tell me down below what your fond memories of Game Informer you read back in the day and all that stuff from the early 2000s. Leave a comment below. So make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. While follow us for upcoming videos, check out my Facebook fan page. The Facebook fan page is in the description down below. And I'll see y'all next time with another video. Thank you very much. And goodbye.